Welcome, everybody, to Carnage Candy. I'm Shaun, and that's Greyson.
Hello!
We have a spectacular episode for you today, reviewing an awesome year for werewolves. 1981 had three of the best werewolf movies ever made, and they all came out in the same year. Wolfen, The Howling, and An American Werewolf in London. I did do a little bit of diving, and I read an article from Sci-Fi and Fangoria about why 81 would have had these werewolf movies, and so many of them. One of the main things across both articles was that the technology was there.
Yes.
And all three, or at least Lannis and Dante, were both really ambitious directors who had wanted to make these films to show off a werewolf transformation. So
for sure.
One of the things is waiting for it to be there. And another thing that I thought was way more interesting was a generational shift away from those 70s, because of the wave of serial killers in the 70s, because of Son of Sam, because of cults uprising in the 70s, you had those exploitation movies like Last House, like
I Spit on Your Grave.
I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw, of course.
Yep.
And what we were getting was a kind of reclamation of good old-fashioned monster movies.
Yeah, for sure.
Starting in the 80s. Of course, Slasher's best year is arguably 81 as well, correct? With
I mean the 80s in general.
Yeah, the 80s in general, but early 80s, because you had Halloween, and then, of course, Slashers took off. But yeah, the main thing was that, and also that werewolves were being used. This is a little more abstract, but they were saying that in the 80s, we were getting to be a little bit more obsessed with image.
Yeah.
Again. And of course, this is like 81, so it's a little too early in history to say that these three films and the reason they were made was because of image, but the shift towards image was starting to go there. And you even saw that in like Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
You know, he's worried about his image, so and he embraces being a werewolf to get over that. So we wanted to combine this all into one big video. We watched all three of these, and instead of separating them out, we wanted to contrast the three films because they're all super different.
Yeah, they're all super different, and they're all really, really good too in their own ways.
Yeah. So I had seen Wolfen when I was a kid. I had not watched it with adult eyes. I had seen American Werewolf in London a couple of times, and I'd never seen Wolfen.
So, wait, you'd never seen The Howling?
The Howling, excuse me, yeah. And so what was your history?
I had seen American Werewolf first, of course, because everybody had that at every rental store.
Yeah.
And then I saw The Howling whenever I was about 16, and then I didn't watch Wolfen until about a week ago.
Yeah, I watched Wolfen on, like, Sunday.
Yes.
So I did not know what to expect. So Wolfen had not broken out into, like, my brain. I did not know it was a movie that existed. So do you have an order that you'd like to go in?
I would say that we go with Wolfen first because it's the one that's the newest of both of us. We don't know much about it, and I think there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff for you and I to talk about in Wolfen because it is so fresh on our minds.
Yeah, so Wolfen stars Albert Finney, who I don't know a lot about Albert Finney. I know he's got a lot of great roles, but I know him as the lawyer in Aaron Brockovich.
Yep.
Ted.
Is it Bob?
Lazary.
Is it Ted?
Huh? Ted Lazary. Bob Lazary. But he is a detective in Wolfen, and Wolfen is a little bit Ed Masry. Wolfen is a little bit different than a traditional werewolf movie, but I did go in blind. I didn't watch a trailer for it. Albert Finney is a detective, Dewey Wilson. And
he's really good too.
He's like a real no-nonsense blue-collar guy. And immediately when you meet him, it hits all the tropes. Back on the job, huh?
He had a mental break. Something had happened. The cool thing is they don't really ever talk about what it was. They just said he had a break.
Yeah. So it takes place in New York, and in Wolfen, somebody is killing rich people that are putting up a housing development there on the coast.
The Vandeveers.
Yes, and it's like it's like the Trumps or some kind of rich Mongol family. And it starts off with this really interesting scene, a woman, man, and their limo driver / bodyguard are kind of in the park. And immediately I was like, Predator took everything from this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes in it that feels like Predator.
Yeah.
The kicking into the vision of the wolf, the vision that he actually has, the noises and everything, how it slowly follows everything around.
So you have the vision of the wolf, and it's like a heat signature negative colorized thing. And even when it goes into wolf vision, it goes.
Yeah, the
and even like people's voices
their voices are different. Yes.
And it's like even the music cues to change the vision switch into the wolf is like insanely Predator.
Yes.
And it's not like Predator kind of took that idea. It really was like, man, Predator took that idea. Like, thanks, and I'll use it.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No.
It works for Predator because he's using it for the same reason.
And it's better in Predator, right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because of his technology and stuff. But just from a design standpoint, it was like very, very just taken out. And then James Horner did the score for Wolfen, and he had a couple of cues from Aliens that and this happens all the time. Like Dewey's theme in Scream 2 is from Broken Arrow and stuff like that. But James Horner, the musical cues are taken from Wolfen. I thought that was super interesting.
It was one of those, when it first hit, it took me right into Aliens for a split second. So it was cool to watch a movie and have both Alien and Predator kind of smacking me at the same time throughout the film.
So, like, it's like a solid thriller. It's got some pretty disturbing violence. There's a hand sever.
That was what I was about to talk about. So at the beginning of the film, the Vanderveer and his wife, but the main Vanderveer is with his wife and his security guard, and the security guard gets attacked, and before he can pull the trigger, the wolf knocks his hand off, and you see it hit the ground and try to pull the trigger in the gun, but it can't.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's really cool looking.
The woman gets like slashed up her body.
Yeah, and the blood sprays up on the tarp behind her.
The first windmill ever, apparently.
Yeah.
But I loved the coroner, who was
Gregory Hines.
Yeah, Gregory Hines is the coroner, and he talks. This is the best the movie is to me, is the opening, like probably the opening 15 to 20 minutes. But there's a scene where the coroner talks to the detective, and they go into detail about in France, whenever they would cut people's heads off, people's heads could pick up on stuff. And they talked a little bit in detail about how this woman probably knew she was dying and that her head had almost been chopped off. And then off screen, you hear the coroner people bagging the body, and they accidentally knock her head off.
And it also comes into play towards the end as well, comes back. But the cool thing about the coroner is his relationship with Dewey is really good in the film too. The whole time that they're both on screen, they have such a good chemistry between the two that you want to see them together as much as you possibly can. And Dewey absolutely looks ridiculous at the beginning of this movie too.
I was going to say that Dewey is... There's one scene where I was like, that is two 80-year-old ladies out on a date.
Yeah, the first 5 minutes he's on screen, he walks around with a newspaper and a grocery bag.
And in the grocery bag, he's eating donuts out of it, right?
Yes, he's constantly eating junk food as he's walking around
in
a
his
murder scene.
In his workout gear,
he still has his headband on. And then he goes to a morgue, and he still has his bag in his arm and his newspaper, and he's just eating while he's talking.
That was such a nice touch that it made sure to show the violence around him and how okay he was eating around it. And shout out to Carl Winslow in the morgue.
Carl Winslow's in it for about a minute maybe, but he makes his place for sure.
He says the F word. It was great.
Yeah, he does.
It kind of like Albert Finney's just kind of investigating and trying to figure out what's going on, and I was like, man, what kind of wolf monster is doing this to people? And he goes and talks to Tom Noonan, the Ripper from Last Action Hero.
I immediately, when I see him on screen, go, there it is.
Yeah.
You're the villain.
Yeah. And Tom Noonan is an expert on wolves and indigenous people. And I thought this was honestly kind of a weak point in the script, but he goes, wolves and Native Americans have been around forever.
Yeah.
And I'm not obviously telling you right now that you should go check out the indigenous people.
But you should go.
Yeah. And so Albert Finney's like, I got it. And he goes up, and apparently all the bridge workers, like on the Brooklyn Bridge, are indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And he meets up with Eddie Holt, who's Edward James Olmos, Selena's dad. Mm-hmm. and I got to this part of the movie, and out of nowhere, the indigenous person is like, Eddie Holt is like, I can shapeshift. I can maul like a beast and fuck like a rabbit.
I could turn into a salmon and swim.
Yeah.
I could fly if I wanted to.
I could jump off this bridge and turn into an eagle. You could do it too. I said, wait a minute. And I paused the movie, and I went onto Wikipedia and I reread the entire synopsis up to that point to make sure I didn't miss anything. But he really is just like out of nowhere, he's like, I should check out the indigenous people. And he goes to the first indigenous person he goes, and the indigenous guy goes, I'm a shapeshifter.
Well, he goes to him because he had a case with him beforehand.
Yeah,
so
he
thought he was like the inside guy to talk to.
Yeah, and I was just like, wait, what?
It's cool because Eddie's messing with him too, because he could tell that Dewey is scared that he's up there. So Eddie like unhooks himself, and he's all walking around, and you have this scene to where Albert looks over to make sure he's still hooked Dewey. Yeah. Before he like goes back down, which is really cool. It's a really tense scene in there, which you don't feel will be that tense, but both the actors do a really good job getting it going.
I honestly don't have much to say except for the finale. Like, actually did an okay job. There's a couple of key scenes where like Edward James almost is naked and kind of being like creepy wolf naked.
That is a cool scene because it makes Dewey start to believe that there is something else going on. Because of what Eddie is doing, Dewey opens up enough to realize this is not normal.
Yeah.
Something else is going on.
Yeah, and just like Dewey has the intuition to be like, it's more than just a crazy naked guy on the beach.
Yeah.
And Edward James almost just like full committing. Like,
he did good.
It's like he's lapping up water and crawling on all floors and acting real weird. But it's like, hey, way to go, man.
He does a really good job with it. And then you have the heartbreak towards the end. You have Dewey working with Gregory Hines again. Yeah. And unfortunately, Dewey can't get to him in time. And you have there's like 15 minutes, I think, to where you have Dewey talking to Eddie, trying to understand what's going on, and that's whenever you find out about the Wolfen and how they don't want people in their territory, and they're mad because they're tearing it all down.
Yeah. Which you could have guessed from the opening scene.
Yeah, you really could.
Whatever it is, the werewolves are mad that rich people are encroaching, right?
I do like that they didn't make it a werewolf and they kept with the wolf. I thought that was a really cool idea.
This is more like, I guess like Twilight, except for that giant, but these are like traditional wolves.
Yeah.
They're not wolf men. They're wolves, but they are superpowered. They can knock people's heads off somehow.
They sure do. Warren, who is the chief, I do believe, is with Dewey and Rebecca, who is the love interest, and I think she's a psychiatrist in the film.
Yeah, she kind of piddles around.
I feel really bad for her. I feel like they could have done a lot more with her character, but she just gets lost because there's so much other stuff going on. But Dewey tells Warren not to pull his gun on the wolves because they'll see that as an attack and go after him. He doesn't listen. He pulls his hand out, and he gets his hand cut off again. And there's a really cool scene whenever Warren gets into the car. He's missing his hand, and he reaches up to pull the visor down with his hand that's missing because he doesn't realize it's gone. Yeah. So whenever he goes up to do that and realizes it's happening, blood spraying everywhere, he gets out and then gets his head knocked off, and that's when we come back to the beginning and you see his eyes like looking around, seeing what's going
that
on.
Return from
it
that
was
opening.
It was worth it.
Yeah, it was really, really good payoff. You have, the finale is like really nothing too special. You do have a couple of cool scenes of like wolves jumping through glass
Yeah.
in this penthouse where we have Dewey and Rebecca kind of like hold up, and Dewey, of course, has the intuition he destroys a model of the development to basically signal to the wolves like, hey, don't worry, man, like it's all good.
We got it taken care of. Don't sweat it. You're okay.
And the movie just kind of wraps from there.
It just ends. There's a narration that happens, and then it ends on a still shot. But overall, after watching this movie, I was kind of mad that I waited as long as I did to watch it. It's very interesting, and you wouldn't think that this would be a movie that came out in '81.
Yeah, I think across all three movies, well, not all three movies, but at least two of the movies, I really felt like what makes a great werewolf movie is that it's not. It could have been just fine if it didn't have werewolves in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A really good werewolf movie, it's like if you took out the werewolf factor, it still would have been okay if it was something else. And I think this was like an okay detective story.
Yeah, and it keeps you on your toes because you want to believe that it's Tom Noonan who's the killer or it's Eddie, but at the end they just tell you no, it is these ancient wolves that can disappear.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking crazy.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. You should check it out. And it kind of rounds it. I don't think I would have it would not have held my attention as a kid.
No, I think that this is. I know I said that I wish we would have watched it as a kid. I probably would have thought it was cool because of the wolves, but I don't think I would have appreciated it until I was in my mid-20s.
Exactly. I would have had to have been like a young or maybe a late teenager or somebody to really like appreciate it. But Wolfen came out. What's our release date right here? July 24th. Let's move on to the Howling. I want to do that one next. So the Howling came out in March, a little bit earlier, because these were just released weeks apart.
Yes.
The Howling is
the darkest of the three, for
definitely
sure.
the darkest, and definitely the strangest, and I don't know if it's it's definitely the sexiest. Right?
I think of the three that you watch, the Howling is the meanest and the darkest of the three.
Yeah, and so Dee Wallace is back at it again.
She's amazing in this movie,
she's spectacular. Dee Wallace plays newscaster Karen White.
Yep.
She's been stalked by Eddie Quist, who is a serial killer.
Yep, leaves a smiley face everywhere that he is.
Yeah, and you have, and again, this kind of goes back to what we were saying in a post-serial killer 80s kind of revolution for horror.
Mm-hmm.
And you start off with a really messed up scene. Eddie's making her watch some
horrible stuff.
Some really schmut stuff.
Yep.
And the police come and smoke Eddie, save her.
Quick, too.
Yeah. This young rook domes him. And Eddie's taken care of. I'm just going to do a quick synopsis because I want to talk about different themes because people have probably seen this one more than Wolfen.
For sure.
But she has sexual trauma, regular trauma from the entire experience. Her therapist says, go stay at the resort over there. It's a nice place.
Totally not infested with werewolves.
Yeah, and she does. And guess what? It is infested with werewolves.
My favorite thing about this werewolf movie is the people who are werewolves can transform at any time.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's a full moon. It doesn't matter if it's daytime.
Yep.
They can do it.
This is the main thing I wanted to talk about, and this is also how it'll contrast with London, because this is like a lot of werewolf movies are really cool because are really scary because the person does not want to be a werewolf. Mm-hmm. That's why werewolf transformations are so painful. You can actually go back and watch our screen autopsy of The Howling and American Werewolf and how we contrast those two werewolf transformations. But yes, in the daytime, whenever they want, these people love being werewolves.
Yes.
Just like Underworld, kind of
the Lycans.
It's not like American Werewolf. Well, this is something he has to deal with and combat. But I was watching and I was like, oh man, it's not a full moon. They can do it whenever they want.
It's daytime whenever she gets attacked at one point.
You have Elizabeth Brooks as Marcia. She looks amazing. Oh my God. Fucking
I knew
80s succubus.
I knew whenever I had you go back and rewatch it, you were going to be obsessed
Ask
with her.
me my type, and it's Elizabeth Brooks. Again, it's any woman that could kill you. And Elizabeth Brooks is just seductive out of her mind. And there was like, I guess I was reading into it too much, but like, Terry comes in after, so yeah, Bill and Marcia have sex and then turn into werewolves together.
Yes. Because Bill is attacked whenever he's leaving her house.
Right. For a second, I was like, is them having sex what turns them into werewolves? But no.
No, he had already been
But
bitten.
they kind of consummate their werewolf relationship together and both transform while they're having sex. So that was pretty awesome. Terry comes in, and like we do think that like Terry is coming in to save the day and kind of take over the movie.
Yeah, and they basically tell you F off.
Yeah.
Because Terry is about to have an amazing scene in an office where she finds out that Eddie was a part of this resort, and whenever she pulls Eddie's folder, it gets me every time. Eddie's werewolf hand comes in and grabs the folder out of her hand, and you see full-on werewolf for the first time, and it looks awesome.
It is deeply funny. Like, this is a movie that knows that it's funny to have a werewolf do something.
Yeah,
like
his hand comes in like that and grabs it out of her hand. And the cool thing about the actress is she plays it so straight too, because it's one of those that you could tell her brain didn't react at first, so it gets grabbed and she just slowly pans up, and then the shock happens.
Doing like a dainty action like that, I think it goes to show that that's a really fun way of showing that these are people that want to be werewolves and like being werewolves, and they are in total control of who they are as werewolves. Like doing just a slutty little...
thank you, check me out.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about this, Terry?
What do you think about these ears? What do you think about me being 7 foot tall?
Yeah, I really love how slender the wolves are. I love the elongated ears, the slimmer snout. They're not like...
They're creepy.
Yeah, they're genuinely creepy.
They're very creepy looking.
Of course, we find out that Eddie is alive.
Eddie is not, sort of. He's sort of alive because he wasn't shot with silver bullets.
Exactly. And man, that, like, there's definitely, we've covered a lot of, man, that would suck to be in that situation. But to see your attempted murderer, sexual assaulter, as a zombie man with a bullet in his head, and then watch him turn into a werewolf, that's some trauma right there. This is like I said, everybody in this movie wants to be a werewolf that is a werewolf.
Yes.
But they still manage to show that like it does hurt to transform.
Yeah, I think Eddie has done it so many times at that point that he just didn't care.
Yeah.
Because you could tell out of everybody who is transformed, it doesn't really bother him anymore. He just kind of laughs it off.
He's like,
But the transformation scene is, of course, amazing. Like Shaun said, you can go watch our See an Autopsy over it. Then you get Dee Wallace throwing acid in Eddie's face, and you don't get the reveal until Chris comes back. So Chris is the boyfriend of Terry, who was on the phone while Terry is being attacked. Chris goes and sees Dick Miller, buys the silver bullets, and then shows up to help.
Chris has it under control.
He does. He holds the rifle like the craziest person I've ever seen in my life, though. He's got it down here like this the whole time. But Chris shows up and finds Terry dead, turns around, and then whenever he turns back, he turns back, and then the werewolf's at the door, and you see Eddie, and whenever he walks into the light, this side of his face is just gone. It looks awesome. And Eddie starts talking trash to him and hands him the gun. It's like, come on, bud. What you got? What you got, big dog? And then Chris shoots him in the, that's silver. It's so funny that Eddie's so cocky only to get shot with a silver bullet because how would Chris know?
Yeah, I know. And so they kind of like corral the werewolves together in a big barn.
Yeah, all of them come together in the barn because they caught Karen and they're talking about how they're going to have Karen.
I was laughing so hard because Dee's like, all right, shut the door.
Yeah.
Lock him in there.
It's so funny. Karen's in there and they come up with this plan to catch the car on fire and rip it off the cliff so that it looks like they died that way. Then Chris rolls up, shoots the little brother, and then they just put a rifle in and catch the barn on fire.
Yep.
We're out of there. So when I first saw it, I thought that was the end of the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm for sure thinking, you know what?
It kind of gets you.
Yeah, they're all wrangled up in there. They're catching on fire. It's all over. But then old Slim Pickens shows up.
Damn it, Slim
The
Pickens.
sheriff just oozing from the mouth, shooting at him. They have a shootout there. Slim Pickens is down, and then all the wolves show up.
Yeah.
And there is probably, oh my God, what, like 8 werewolves outside this car?
It's a lot, and it's daytime, right? Like,
No, it's still nighttime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's still night.
I'm thinking of the drive off
Yeah.
in a little bit, but
But you have Bill and wolf form bites Karen on the shoulder,
yes.
which leads us to the end of the film, which might be in my top 10.
I wanted to talk about when they're in the car.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Karen like takes the rifle and she like puts it over her shoulder and she's like, doof. I was like, hell yeah, D, get him
Completely
out.
domes her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is they don't show where she shot him. You just see his tattoo on his arm, which I
Yeah.
thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, that was very clever.
But after that happened, as Chris and Karen are driving away, Chris notices that Karen's been bitten. And that's when they come up with a plan to have Karen go on national TV and show people wolves exist.
Yeah.
Or werewolves exist.
Yeah. And it's also kind of like this is a really good way of showing character growth through the horror, because not only is she just showing, she's also overcoming her phobia, because after the attack, she could not perform on the newscast. So she not only uses the wolf transformation to, show the world that there's werewolves, but to also reclaim her power over what Eddie did to her and to alleviate her trauma. So I was like, man, that's a lot of thoughtful movie making for a 1981 werewolf.
It
movie.
is, and it's got another one of my favorite lines, to where the 2 kids are watching on the TV, and the mom goes, "What are y'all watching in there? News lady's turning into a werewolf." It's so good.
But then it's like it's all for naught, because it's like it's just special effects and none of the world believes it to be true.
And then you find out Marcia is still alive and at a roadhouse eating a burger.
She's waiting on me. I got a date.
Yeah.
I got a date with Marcia.
It is funny that the end of the movie credit scene is a hamburger.
It is.
Cooking,
It's a raw,
which is not rare.
Can you bring up Marcia? Type in Marcia the Howling so we can show the audience real quick while we wait. But yeah, this kind of tongue-in-cheek ending where it's like the final shot is just a raw ordered, I want it rare. It's a really funny touch. Go to images.
I'm trying.
Oh, good. There it is, right there. Amazing. Thank you for that. There she is.
There you go.
Marcia. Oh, goodness. Look at that hand reaching out to me. I want to go out on
It's
a date
actually
with-
just waving. Hello.
Hello, I'm here. But yeah, just a spectacular movie. I would say I like The Howling the most out of the 3.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about London, though, for sure.
The cool thing about The Howling is the special effects in The Howling are so well done. And it's because you have Rob Bottin in it, who did the special effects for The Thing. And they've aged very well. The only weird thing about The Howling is you have a little bit of the claymation. It's not for long.
Yeah.
There's one scene with 3 wolves that are kind of claymationed. But other than that, the rest of the movie is very solid.
Yeah.
I mean, it pulled in 17 to $20 million in the box office.
It says
on
it
a
had
budget of $1 million.
It said it had a almost $2 million budget. That's so impressive. Didn't you say that our makeup guy here, or our effects man, he was 21?
He was 21 when he did
He was
it.
21 when he did that. That's incredible.
21 when he did this,
Yeah, that's
which
really
is
awesome.
wild.
But the Howling makes way for, while spectacular, makes way for an American Werewolf. So we were at March.
Came in August.
So this is the last movie of the three. An American Werewolf in London comes out the end of summer in 1981, and this This is like the werewolf movie of werewolf.
It's the Gone with the Wind of wolf films.
Yeah.
Except for the Wolfman, of course, the original.
Yeah.
But as far as later ones go, this is the wolf movie to watch.
So you have John Landis, who we obviously have already talked about. He's kind of a piece, and you know his legacy is definitely soured. But we got David Naughton, and we have the dad from Step Kids as the best friend. That's how I remember him. Do you remember Step Kids?
He is. That's what I know him from.
Do you know that movie, Step Kids?
Yes, I do.
I said with the trailer music that's like, I say love me.
Yep, that's how I remember it.
Me.
Because I think it's on. Is it on one of the Turtles movies? Is
Yes.
it TMNT? It's TMNT too, isn't it? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I knew
It's the trailer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're like,
I had it. The white box. You pull it out, put it in, bam, there it is.
it's like Dad married Tommy,
Yep.
and then she married Eddie, and then her stepbrother pops her with the ball shooter. I remember. This is it. But yeah, that's how I remember the best friend. But Jack Goodman, Jack and David are hitchhiking.
Yep, they're going. I think they're doing a hitchhiking tour around Europe. They stop in London. They go to the Slaughtered Lamb. After that, everything goes as wrong as it possibly
The
could.
movie hits real fast.
It is. This movie, when I went back and rewatched it, this movie felt like it was 45 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, it plays quickly. It goes by fast. It's really well paced.
It's the funniest of the three. It's only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That is a short film. It's the funniest of the three, but it still gets very dark when it needs to and has really creepy scenes in it too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'll agree, but I think that the seeing the bodies is much scarier than the werewolf transformations in this.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, that's what scared me more.
The scariest scene in this movie to me is the Nazi werewolves. When I saw this movie for the first time, I had no clue that scene was coming. So whenever he's at his family's house and the mom goes to answer the door and all of those Nazi werewolves are there, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I was just horrified at what was happening.
Yeah, and it's like really, I mean, it feels like a home invasion just with funny costumed werewolves like wrecking shop.
The werewolves creep me out.
Yeah.
The way that the like bald looking werewolf without the helmet on.
Yeah.
I had nightmares of that wolf. I remember them because it stuck with me.
Yeah, it's good. We got so he sees his friend Jack Goodman.
Yes. Who is haunted on the world because the werewolf killed him, and the only way he can actually rest in peace is if the curse of the wolf is gone.
Yeah, and it's funny because he just, I mean, it's not funny, but just there is something comedic about your dead friend telling you to kill yourself.
Yeah.
It's just like, kill yourself, David.
It's also,
and his body continues to decay over time.
it's also funny because he's funny about it the whole time.
Yes.
The first time you see him dead, he asks us if he can have David's toast.
Yeah.
You gonna eat that toast? And he's got that little flap
Yeah.
of skin just sitting there dangling the whole time too.
You got Jenny Agutter as Nurse Alex Price, and don't you just fall in love with her immediately?
She's very good in this film.
Because she's the romantic.
Yeah.
I mean, like the original Wolfman, she's the romantic glue
Yes.
that holds the movie together. Yeah, you just kind of, because at first you're like, oh, she's just flirty. There's no way, and then they actually become romantically involved.
Yep.
And I think that's why I'm excited about the upcoming Wolfman as well, because it's not. Yes, this a lot of this movie is about David's disbelief. Right, and David's denial. It's like 25, 30 minutes of coverage of him just not trusting Jack, right? Because he has such a good life with Jenny. But then it becomes about protecting Jenny kind of towards the end. And honestly, like, I love the theater scene so much.
Oh, when he's talking to Jack and all the other victims that he has?
Yes. I thought that was really, really great. and I love how sarcastic the couple is.
They should be because of what happened, and it is cool to see that. I think that the scene with the guy who gets off the train, whenever he's being chased throughout the subway, that scene is terrifying. Yeah. And you only see the wolf.
The escalator and stuff.
Yeah, you see the werewolf walk out, and it's pulled far out too.
Yeah.
So it's shooting down from the escalator, and you see like maybe 2 or 3 frames of the wolf walk out, and then he's pouncing on it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on because when I was watching this, I was like, I don't know if a quadriplegic or if a bipedal werewolf is scarier. What do you prefer?
I prefer them standing, but the werewolf in this one is very creepy, mainly because of how the face is. Like it's always like scowling at people. So I like this one, but usually whenever I watch a werewolf movie, I like it better when they're standing because it makes them look bigger and more intimidating to me.
I'm super curious what they're gonna do for Wolfman.
I am too.
It's gonna be so exciting to see. I'm just so obsessed. But after the theater scene, you get kind of this. I was very impressed with him in the phone booth when he calls his.
Oh, that's before it happened. That's right before he goes to the theater.
That's before he goes to the theater. But I was super impressed with that scene.
It's a good scene.
It was really, really heartbreaking because he is about to, on off himself, and
it's really good because he plays it in a manner to where he's talking calmly because he's not trying to panic his sibling.
Yeah.
So he's very sad, but he's playing it very cool because he knows what he has to do, but it's such a hard thing to explain to his family. Yeah. So all he can say is how much he loves them.
Yeah. And it was very good. And then,
it is.
So after the theater, you really do get a good finale, I thought.
Oh, it's awesome.
He goes into Piccadilly Square and all hell breaks loose.
It is. I forgot how good this ending was to this movie until I went back and rewatched it. I did not remember half of the carnage that happens at the end of that.
Yeah, it's almost like Final Destination because his presence as a werewolf causes car wrecks.
Yes.
People are dying in the cars and getting hit by cars. He knocks a guy's head off.
Yep. He knocks off the main detective that's going after it. He's out.
Yeah, the police are trying to hold the door.
Yep.
And it's very but everybody's gathering around to see what's happening. Nobody's running away.
No, because they don't know what's going on until it's too late.
Yeah. And I think I really just forgot that there was an actual big finale to this movie. I think it's because the transformation scene kind of takes over when you're considering what's happening in this.
Whenever I was going into the film, the scenes I remembered, of course, are the first attack, whenever that happened. I remembered that. I remembered the nightmares, and then I remembered his transformation.
Yeah.
I had completely forgot, and I remembered all the deformation of Jack's character, too. I didn't remember any of the conversation in the theater at the end, and I sure didn't remember all of the car wrecks and everything at all. That was completely. It was like watching it for the first time ever. All
for sure.
Me.
It's because I didn't remember how it ended.
Yes.
And police corner him in that alley, and Alex has connected all the dots, and she knows what's happening because she hasn't really believed him either. Because he's told her and shit, but she gets up to him. And, man, it really is just heartbreaking like the old stuff, right?
Because you see how hard she's trying to wake him up, but he's gone. Yeah. And there's that scene to where he goes to leap out at her, and then the cops shoot her, or shoot him, not her. But it's wild because that happens. You see David after he's killed as a wolf. Credits.
Yeah.
Just straight up end.
Deal with it.
Done. Not a happy ending, but at least all the people can rest in peace.
Yes, and I think that's why that theater scene is so good, is because it's David.
I guess it is kind of a happy ending.
David doesn't get a happy ending, but everybody, obviously Alex does not get a happy ending either. But everybody else gets a happy ending. Jack gets a happy ending.
Yep.
His victims get a happy ending. And he did get to tell his family goodbye. Right? So that's also, it's just,
I didn't.
It really is just like a sad curse movie
It is.
when it's all said and done.
I also had forgotten about this. I didn't remember David running away when Jack's being attacked at the beginning of the film.
Yeah,
he leaves his friend behind
And then he
runs away,
doubles back.
and then he turns around.
Yeah.
What's cool about that is Jack's spirit never holds it against David either.
I know.
I think that's a really cool thing that I never thought about until I went back and rewatched it.
I didn't think about it until right now. The ghost never brings it up.
No, because I think Jack understands, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's a wolf. You don't have any weapons to stop it.
Jack, as a matter of fact, maybe Jack's happy that his friend survived so he could talk to him.
Exactly.
And get him to do it.
At least he came back to try to do something, but at that point it's too late.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about before we hop off of this, the doctor character is pretty cool too, because the doctor character is the one that goes back to the slaughtered lamb to piece it all together.
I know. He even tries to help David at Piccadilly.
Yes, he's really good in this movie, and you don't think he's going to be.
Yeah.
You think he's just going to be a character that's in the film for about 5 minutes, but he's the detective of the film.
He is. He kind of takes over that cop role, and he's trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
He's good too. He's slick.
Yeah.
He's really good how he does it, but
Yeah, and he does show up at the end. And he's also trying to stop Alex from going down the alley and stuff at the end as well. But yeah, Dr. Hirsch. J.S. Hirsch. But yeah, just an awesome time. Yeah, I mean, all three of them are great. I think it is crazy that, I mean, there's not a lot of, if you're talking top 5 Wolf movies, it's like,
it's number 2.
yeah,
Wolfman is number 1 for sure.
the original.
Yes, because it's the one that inspired everybody.
Yeah,
Like it's one of those that, you know, I was thinking about my Gone with the Wind statement, and it is, you can't not say that American Werewolf, or not American Werewolf, but the Wolfman is the Gone with the Wind, because it's the one that made everybody create this one.
I think American Werewolf in Paris is the greatest werewolf.
It is, especially the CGI to that. It is aged so well. Every time you go back and rewatch that film, it's just incredible on how good it looks.
I watched that movie exclusively for boobies as a kid.
And it's got the guy from Dead Man on Campus in it. That's the
does.
only thing I remember about that film, and the CGI.
Well, we're excited about Wolfman.
Yes, yes, we
had
are.
A super fun time checking out these Wolf movies. I'm really glad that I have a new respect for Howling and that we found Wolfen. So
Yeah, it's cool to go and look at this year and see how all 3 of these came out, and imagine teenagers that were able to see all 3 of these in theaters.
Yeah.
Because what an amazing
they
time
were
that
probably
is.
like another werewolf movie.
I don't know though, because they're all so drastically different. I don't think they were. I think it was one of those
Obviously,
that it kind of just floored everyone that you got one that's just a detective story, and the other 2 are these special effects extravaganzas.
Yeah.
It's just, man, 81, they were cooking on Wolf films.
Yeah. If you're cooking on Wolf films, head over to patreon.com/hangtime to support this channel and content like it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and leave a comment about what Wolf movies we should have watched instead of this, and we might watch them and review those as well. We do have a Wolfman review coming soon.
We do indeed. It's going to be a fun time.
You guys have an awesome day, and thanks for watching.
Goodbye.